Hey peeps, it's that time of year. We're breaking down my top 5 favorite tarot decks for professional practice in 2024. These are the decks that were perennial favorites for clients and myself. They are decks that I worked with in regards to mentorship and teaching many times over. And they are decks that brought great clarity as well as beauty, meaning, and purpose to client readings this year. So let's have a little sip of tea. Happy holidays to you wherever you are in the world, and if you observe Yule, blessed Yule to you, which is incoming this next weekend. Okay, here we are, my loves. We have 2 honorable mention decks because I just couldn't not talk about these decks, so they had to be in the list. The first one is the Nameless Tarot and Oracle deck. I had a few students in 2024 ask to mentor with me around this deck itself, and we had some very powerful and enlightening experiences in sacred space together. I'll tell you what, 8 weeks with a deck like this is a powerhouse experience, no matter what the themes are. This is a wonderful deck to build your intuitive muscle and to connect with spirit animal essences and the earth and bone style magic of witchcraft practice that's very connected to the land. Also, the artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. You can get lost in the imagery. And with the sigils included in each card, there is a level of stepping into witchcraft or magical practice that is quite inspiring in Zia Hunt's Nameless One Tarot and Oracle deck. So this is an honorable mention because of how powerful it is and the fact that so many of you want to develop deeper level of relationship and connection with this deck. I really love the Nameless One Oracle, and I encourage you to get the compendium that comes with it if you do decide to invest in it, because that book is amazing. It invites such powerful layers of reflection and awareness, and it really helps you to understand the depths of this deck itself as well. Next on the list for honorable mention, this is the only other honorable mention deck. I've kept it to 2, guys. I did good. Is Lennox Ree's Peculiar Pathways Tarot. I really liked this deck when I first unboxed it, but I didn't really start working with it until the year ahead readings, which I began midway through November. Let me just tell you, this deck is so awesome for clarification, insight, and understanding from a reading perspective. If you're looking for a deck that's unique in its imagery, but still gives you the clarity of a Rider-Waite-Smith deck in that it's like a snap, okay, I know what it means, I know exactly what it's saying. This is the deck to work with for that. It's wonderful for that type of reading and to offer real clarity as well as actionable steps for clients in readings. Also, the artwork is just beautiful, and so it creates a nice way for both the person who, for both the querent, the client, and the reader to have a wonderful experience with the artwork itself as well. I love the feel of this deck. I think it's very beginner friendly as well as for the seasoned reader. It invites new areas of exploration, and the guidebook is awesome with this as well. Lennox did the guidebook, and it's really wonderful. So this is the Peculiar Pathways Tarot, and both of the decks on honorable mention are independently created. They're indie decks. They're well worth the investment, in my opinion, and that Peculiar Pathways has just knocked it out of the park with the year ahead readings. And so I did want to include it in my honorable mention because if you are watching this and you're a card reader, it may be a deck that you wouldn't assume at first glance is great for general reads, but it is amazing for offering divinatory clarity in a reading. Okay, another sip of tea. Here we go. We're going into the top 5 now, guys. Number 5 on the list is the Mary L. Tarot. This is another one that I ended up doing some mentorship packages with in 2024, and I finally did my first workshop with this deck. There is another workshop that will be coming in 2025 with this beast of a deck, this behemoth of a powerhouse of a deck. This is the deck for the occult student. This is a deck for someone who wants to bring in symbolism from occult and religious traditions and bring a Thoth style of reading to the work, but it's also quite unique in and of itself. It is a study deck. And so for those of us who are professional readers, it is a great one to teach with. It is a great one to find inspiration with, and it is a great deck for past life readings, as well as readings that get into shadow work and childhood wound components. I really like this deck for students or for clients who have religious trauma like myself and who are looking to heal around shame and guilt within their human experience. This is a wonderful deck to find empowerment around these themes for yourself. And it just makes you feel like a badass working with this deck. It's not an easy deck. So if you can tackle this behemoth, it's going to serve you well. This is the Mary L. Tarot by Marie White. It is number 5 on my list. Number 4 is the Darkwood Tarot. I love this deck. It's a perennial favorite of mine. It's always on regular rotation when it comes to readings. I apologize, guys. My nose is running. Vincent and I are like on the edge of another cold. So the Darkwood Tarot is a wonderful deck if you are a new reader and you want a deck that has a witchcraft feel, but that is beginner friendly. It is, for the most part, Rider-Waite-Smith true. The guidebook is so helpful and insightful, but it is not overwhelming. I use this deck all the time for my more witchcraft focused offerings because it's so inspiring and just lusty and earthy and forest vibes witch, you know? So it's wonderful to work with from that regard. It's very inspiring for, as I understand, for clients to be read with this deck in their offering as well. Lots of clients request that I use this deck in a reading because of how much they love it. It's a perennial favorite for a reason. It's a beautiful deck. It lets you feel inspired in your witchcraft practice, but you're also getting that clear Rider-Waite-Smith divination aspect to the reading. And so it's a great one for general, for spiritual path focus, for shadow work. It really can go all over the place. And so, like, if you can only have a few decks in your collection and you're a reader, I think this is a wonderful one to have. If you only want a few decks in your collection and you just read for yourself, not just, but if you read for yourself, this is a wonderful one to have in your collection as well, because it can do a lot of different things, but it still has that Rider-Waite-Smith true angle to it. So it's easily accessible, and it does bring a lot of clarity and not as much density to a reading as, let's say, the Mary L. Tarot would. So that is number 4 on my list. Number 3 on my list is the Witch Sister Tarot. This is probably the most requested deck that students have asked to work with me around in 2024. It is a Celtic pantheon dream, and it is very empowering when it comes to your practice as a priestess and a witch, as well as a reader. It is not a straight up Rider-Waite-Smith true deck, so you want to give that guidebook a read. You want to give the guidebook a read anyhow, because that guidebook is off the charts amazing. It's an incredible guidebook. It's inspiring, it's insightful, it's not too dense, and there's a lot of explanation for the symbolism and the choices made within the artwork. So this is Julia Jeffries' Witch Sister Tarot. This is a mass-produced deck. The top 3 decks on this list are mass-produced, so you know, if that's a factor for you, these are easily accessible for the most part. And I have found for students in 2024 who were looking to build a deeper sense of reverence in their practice and bring card work into daily life, this deck has so much potential. It's such a great deck for self-empowerment, self-worth, self-value. It's also a wonderful deck to connect with the White Stag, Cernunnos, Nick Naven, so many faces of the Celtic pantheon. And also, if you have felt called to work with the Cailleach, this is a great deck to connect with her around, because she's a strong feature in the deck, and you really feel her energy weaving throughout this system as a whole that Julia has created. It's a really, I am so glad one of my sisters in the cards encouraged me to get this deck, because I was on the fence at the beginning. I would have missed out on so much, and there's so much wealth and wisdom to access within this deck in daily life practice. It's not this. It's not a cult. It's not here. This is lived in the earth, in the dirt, with bones. And it's a wonderful, wonderful deck. And for client readings, it does bring a very powerful spiritual journey and empowerment aspect for the student, for the client, for the querent. That's really, really special. Now, next on the list is probably my second most requested deck to be worked with by students, and this is TOV. It's also on my personal list. It's always in my top 5 decks of all time. This is my husband deck, Tarot of Vampires. This is a deck I can't live without, and I teach with this deck a lot. There is a workshop coming early in 2025 with this deck. For those of you who want to build deeper relationship with it, this deck has endless depths. It's wonderful to study with. And from a perspective of reading for others, from a professional practice perspective, it is great for deep work in workshops, in more dedicated courses of study with students and clients. And in readings, it is profound to get into the deep roots of aspects where clients feel confused, constricted, or unsure on their paths. This is going to give clarity to relationships, to career, to your spiritual path, to shadow work, to self-discovery, to finding your voice, to setting better boundaries. This is a deck across the board that is amazing to work with. Now, I do think you have to connect with the artwork at a certain level in order to really give effective readings with the deck, but the guidebook will teach you so much about the history, the lineage, and the structure of tarot that I really do recommend the guidebook, at least for all professional readers that come in contact with me. And if you're drawn to the artwork, this deck brings something very special to readings for clients as well. The number 1 deck on my list for professional practice in 2024 is the Antique Anatomy Tarot. I was late to the party with this one, and I regret being so late. This and Witch Sister, I could kick myself for waiting to purchase for as long as I did. But the Antique Anatomy Tarot by Claire Goodchild is really beautiful. It is profound. It gives eloquent, insightful, sartorial style readings. And the artwork is beautiful. I haven't had a client who hasn't loved the imagery in the deck in a reading. It invites deeper study, but you can also take it as it is and do more general themed readings with it as well. I like it when I need to give clear, factual, insightful advice for clients, and when I don't want to prevaricate too much and get too lost in a storyline. So this is a wonderful all-around deck. If I had to pack a deck in my bag, if I was traveling and I was going to be a traveling witch and priestess, and I knew I was going to be doing a set of readings, but I also had to bring a ritual component into the night, this would be a deck that I could use that can do all of that. It wears many hats very easily, and also aesthetically, it's one of my favorite decks in my collection. Even though the minors are technically pips, I still get feeling off of them. I still have understanding of the intuitive aspect that they bring into a reading. And so I don't feel like they're pips, even though I guess technically they are pips. Pip decks are not my favorite style, and yet Antique Anatomy is just amazing for nuanced readings, but also for insightful readings. So this deck will go as deep as you want or stay as surface as you would like to, and it can give real factual information to clients as well as most likely outcomes and offer clarification like that. It's a beautiful deck to work with. I think if you also observe the Wheel of the Year, or you tend to work with spirit animal essence, there's something about the color and setup with this deck that lends itself well to flowing into that area of practice very easily. So I really, really love this deck for that. And this deck really loves to work with oracle decks as well, which just brings another level of power to a reading for a client. So I really love to work with this deck when I know I want to work with other oracle decks to clarify or inspire a client when it comes to their desired focus for a reading itself. It's also a wonderful deck if you are new to tarot or you're a new reader for others, because it's not overly loaded with symbolism, and it is pretty Rider-Waite-Smith true. So you can work with the traditional meanings along with a Tarot 101 or a guidebook that lets you get very comfortable with the structure of tarot itself and not get lost in a reading, let's say in the way that you might with the Nameless One if you are new to doing professional readings. So for my newer readers out there who are watching this for inspiration, Antique Anatomy is a lovely choice. Especially if you're not quite drawn to the artwork in Darkwood, it's still as accessible and beginner friendly when it comes to readings. So this has been my professional practice tarot top 5 in 2024. I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me. I am sending you guys oceans of love and best wishes in the new year. I will, of course, see you in the next video. Take care.